everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're joined by pro BMX rider, two-time X Games gold medalist, ranked 7th on X Games list of top BMXers of all times, Morgan Wade. Morgan, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you on The Right View. First of all, I'll just say that anyone competing in any X Games sport, so much respect for you. It's just basically, it seems like they took all the crazy stuff where you could hurt yourself and just kind of pile them all together. And anybody that does that sort of as their profession, I'm just going to give you a heck of a lot of credit. How did this all start? Because, you know, I mean, it's enough to just start riding a bike as a kid and all that, but you just took it to another level.
Honestly, I saw BMX when I was young. I actually went to the Texas State Fair. Gosh, I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. And I saw a BMX show, which is, you know, that's how most kids get started with it. But, you know, fast forward 25, 30 years, and here I am talking to you. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, absolutely. Whenever you first kind of got into BMX, though, I mean, I feel like to do something like this sport, I've played a lot of sports, and there's always inherent risk in sport, but I mean, you have to kind of, I don't know, take yourself out of a place where you're worried about getting hurt doing it. It is something that most people can't do. Was there somebody that was kind of encouraging you in your life to do it, or you were just so fascinated by it, you just kind of jumped head, you know, in feet first? How did it work?
I'd say a little bit of both. I mean, there were definitely the encouragements came from riders that I looked up to, guys that I didn't necessarily know at the time, but that I, you know, saw riding and looked up to and wanted to emulate what they were doing. Aside from that, it is really fun to do. It's what I enjoy doing, and I was, you know, completely. I guess I immersed myself in it, and I enjoy doing it. So it's, you know, if you can make a living doing what you love. Yeah. Are you really working? Not, yeah. But the guys that I looked up to, like Dave Mira, Matt Hoffman, and actually I mentioned I saw a show at the Texas State Fair that kind of got me into BMX when I was younger, and that was actually Matt Hoffman was doing a show called the Sprocket Jockeys back in the early '90s, and my family and I went up there and we saw the show, and I watched all 3 shows that day. And I mean, I've been doing the Texas State Fair shows for the last probably 16 years now, the same exact shows that got me into it. So hopefully I'm, you know, returning the favor, getting other kids involved in it as well. And Matt Hoffman too. That's my bike sponsor, Hoffman.
Oh,
Bike.
Okay. Well, yeah. I'm sure you are. I'm sure there are a lot of kids that obviously look up to you and what it is you do. I have to put myself in the role of mom here because I have 2 kids. I have an almost 5-year-old son, and you know, inherently as a parent, when your child is learning to ride a bike, or I mean, my son, I'll climb anything you put in front of him, and sometimes I'll just hear him like screaming in our house for help, and he'll just be in basically the craziest spot, and I have no idea how he managed to get himself there. So what was this like for your parents though, whenever you started getting into this stuff? Because I feel like as a parent, it's always our job to kind of protect our kids and make sure that they don't hurt themselves, but at the same time, you don't want to stifle a kid, and you don't want to prevent them from doing something that they're passionate about like this. How was it for your family?
Well, my parents were always very supportive and always, you know, wanted to help me do what I wanted to do, essentially. So, I mean, my dad and my mom both would drive me across the country to go to competitions when I was, you know, a teenager. And I mean, I always say, you know, my first sponsor was actually my dad, because he would, you know, give me gas money to go to the skate park. He would, you know, help me out to get to contests and be a part of the stuff that I wanted to do. So very, very supportive family there. I mean, I know I put my mom through it because
yeah, I'm sure you did. God.
She's definitely watched me break bones before and get knocked out. And there was one competition in particular out in Florida that she took me to that I was unconscious, and she took pictures of me unconscious on the ground and was like, well, I can't do anything, so I'll just take pictures because I want to see him later. She's lost a little bit of that nerve over the years that she used to have, I guess, because I guess I took her a little too close to the edge. But now she doesn't like watching me compete now. She just likes to hear what happened, and then she'll watch it after. And she knows,
yeah.
You know.
By the way, I can totally appreciate that. Like, you just want to, if ignorance is bliss in a way, maybe for your mom, and I can totally understand that. What about if you hadn't gotten into this? Because obviously, not only is this your passion, this is something you do professionally. I assume this was sort of a dream for you as a kid since you got into it very young, but was there another path that you thought about taking if this didn't work out?
Yeah, I was actually in college for graphic design whenever my career started to take off. So, I mean, art is something that comes easy to me. My mom is an artist, and she's an art teacher and has been for years and years. And along with, she's an all-around teacher. She homeschooled me and my brothers.
Oh, wow.
But it's always been something that I enjoyed doing. And it was kind of like, I don't know if it's like the easy way out or whatnot, but I was just like, oh, I like doing that. So I went straight to that. And I was looking into graphic design whenever I started actually doing better in competitions and making money at it. And what kind of gave me the thought, oh, wait, I could probably do this for a living. So, yeah. And then, I got into X Games in 2003, and that was kind of the last straw for putting school on hold for me.
So is school still technically on hold for you?
Yeah. Yeah. 20
Would
years.
you ever go back and finish?
I mean, honestly, I don't think. I mean, I have.
That's the point, I guess.
I at high school, and I did most of my the work at the junior college here. Actually, the same college I'm at right now. Doing this interview. My wife.
Circle. Look at this.
But I didn't get like an associate's degree or anything like that. But I was most of the way there whenever I kind of put school on hold. But you don't need school to be able to make a living. I mean, if there's something you're good at, do what you're good at, and people will pay you to do it no matter what it is. We do a lot of kind of like anti-bullying shows at high schools and stuff. And one of the best messages, the best way I've heard it put, that's kind of like an encouraging way to keep kids involved with what they're passionate about, is one of the guys. He puts it in such a good way. He says, if you're passionate about something, first he has kids raise their hands, like who likes, sports or music or art or whatever. And, the kids raise their hands, and he's like, congratulations, you're passionate about something. Do whatever you're passionate about as much as you possibly can right now when you're young. And one of two things will happen. You'll either get so good at it that people will pay you to do it, you'll become professional, or you'll become an expert at it and people will pay you to teach it. So there's not really a lose in that scenario.
Yeah.
Immerse yourself in something that you're really interested in. You can find a way to make that work. But there's also
so true.
I mean,
people never talk about that though, because we sort of have been conditioned as a society that there are just certain steps that you have to take. You go to elementary school, you go to high school, you go to college, you get a degree, you get a 9-to-5 job, you get married, you have kids, like the whole thing. Nobody has to do things that way. And in fact, it isn't until recently, really, in the overall history of mankind to a degree, that we've sort of had that specific trajectory for everyone. But you look at some of the most successful people, of modern times, a lot of those people didn't graduate from college. Some of them didn't graduate from high school. And if you can figure out what it is that you enjoy doing, I totally agree with that. And you know that you have the path to make it a career and be successful. Now, the only thing I'll say with someone like you or other sports figures is, like, what if you got really hurt then and you couldn't? I mean, you've had some major injuries. You just said your mom has a photo of you like knocked out. What are some of the other injuries you've had? Have you ever been afraid that you're not going to be able to come back?
I mean, that thought never really crosses my mind too much. Yeah, and if I found myself in that position, I'd cross that bridge when I get there. So like if you dwell on something, that's going to be what you're going to gravitate towards. So like that's not something that I really care about. If it's the Lord's will for that to happen to me, then sure, okay, fine, it'll happen, and I'll deal with it when it gets here. But I've had some pretty bad injuries, and a couple that have almost given me the old. But I made it through. Infections and not wearing knee pads. That's how you learn how to wear knee pads. You hit your knee a bunch of times, it swells up, it gets infected. You end up in the hospital for a week with an infection in your bloodstream, and it's bad news bears. So now I wear knee pads all the time when I ride, stuff like that. But I've done the typical things, broken a lot of bones, ruptured my spleen, and almost bled to death, stuff like that. But
Casual situations. My gosh, that's.
You can live without a spleen. Thankfully, I still have my spleen, but the doctors were able to fix it. So.
Wow. Well, what about, so you're married and you have kids. How old are your kids?
So I have one kid. I have a 6-year-old son.
One kid. Okay. How is this when your wife and your son are watching you? I assume since your son has been born, perhaps you've had an injury or two?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple, but you know, it is what it is.
How do they handle it? Are they nervous, or are they just like, yeah, this is sort of what he does and we're used to it at this point?
I mean, I think there's probably always going to be something somewhere under the surface, but for the most part, I mean, she hides it well if that's an issue.
Shout out to your wife, man.
But she understands it pretty well because, I mean, we met through BMX. She also used to ride bikes, and we met at a contest, and she was actually riding in the first all-female BMX competition back in 2005. Whenever we met.
That's very cool. So of course, yeah. So she gets it. She understands what she got into with you to a degree. What about your son at 6 years old? I don't know what kind of bike riding is he doing?
So I had him riding a balance bike. I don't know if you're familiar with what a balance bike is.
Oh, yeah, because I got a 2 and a 4-year-old. Yeah. Yes.
Training wheels should not be a thing ever for anyone ever again. Like, somebody should definitely burn all the training wheels on the planet, because all they do is hinder most kids, because you rely on those wheels to catch you when you need to learn how to balance on 2 wheels. So like, I had him balancing and coasting, just using his feet for power when he was 2 years old. And we actually, at the X Games in Minneapolis, when he was 2, he was actually riding in the bowl and like going down the rollers and carving the quarters and stuff. And yeah, I mean, fast forward a couple of years, he was on the pedal bike, and he goes to the skate park with me, and he rides, and it makes me nervous, probably more so than mom was nervous even.
You're getting a taste of your own medicine now. Yeah, wow. Okay, so I feel like my kids are really far behind then. And it's interesting what you're saying though about the training wheels. And I think you're onto something, because I recently moved my family to Florida, and what you find out when you move to Florida is that literally kids that are like 2 years old are all fully swimming, and they're completely competent by themselves in the water, no worries. Meanwhile, I moved down there with a 1 and a 3-year-old, and there are pools everywhere, there's, you know, the ocean everywhere, and neither of my kids can fully swim. And we got a swim instructor, and she told me, she was like, take all those floaties and burn them, because it's exactly what you're saying. You have to figure out how to hold your body in the water and carry your body in the water in order to swim properly, and those totally negate everything. Same thing with training wheels. So I think you're onto something.
You learn balance before you add power. Once you have balance down and control down, you add power to go faster.
Okay.
I mean, with training wheels, you're adding the power first, and then you're learning how to balance after, and it's backwards. So,
all right. I mean,
well, on training wheels when I was 5 years old or whatever, and I'm all right. So it's not
you did okay. I feel like, what age should a kid be able to like pedal and ride a bike? See, I feel like I really don't know. And my son's almost 5. Should he be doing that now?
Every kid's different. It's not, they're gonna learn at their own pace. My son was, I think his 5th birthday, we gave him his first pedal bike that actually had pedals on it. And he got on it and pushed off and started pedaling and cruising the very first time he tried it.
So we're not far behind. Okay, I'm feeling better about this. I feel like we need to go get some balance bike action going. Yeah. All right, I'm gonna take some notes.
Makes a good balance bike. Just throw that out there.
Which one?
Hoffman Bikes, my bike sponsor.
Oh, all right. I'm gonna be looking it up after our show here.
Basically, that you can take the pedals off of them, so it's a balance bike, and then you can add them later. So
then you don't need like 100 bikes. Well, that's good news. My husband will buy into that, because he's already irritated. I ride a road bike because I do like triathlons and stuff. He's already irritated by what I've got going on in our garage. So if I could do fewer bikes, I think he might buy into that. So we'll certainly look it up. I do have to ask you about the X Games and your gold medal in 2013. I mean, what was that like for you? Because something that started as a passion for you, obviously at such a young age, and something that you've been doing for so much of your life to win a gold medal at your first X Games. I mean, that must have been amazing.
Well, it definitely wasn't my first X Games. 2013 was 10 years deep. So 2003 was my first time there. So I definitely had to work for it.
You did 10 years. Oh, it wasn't the first one. All
yeah,
right.
oh, yeah.
So
yeah,
you won a medal in the X Games, though. A gold medal. That must have been like incredible.
Anyone that says that, tries to, fluff it off like it's not a big deal, they're lying, because it's huge. It is, the pinnacle of the sport, or at least for the time period. I mean, obviously we have Olympics now, which that's massive as well. So there's definitely that avenue, but the sport's definitely kind of hit a Y in the road right now. But it's cool. Both directions are really cool. And honestly, X Games, that was the pinnacle when I got that, and it was awesome to be able to put down a run that won the contest. Because honestly, any of the guys that are in there, it's the best dudes in the world that get invited to that. So any of us could potentially win as long as we stick the tricks that we want to do and put a good run down. And anyone can have an off day. And I've had plenty of when it counts, and you end up at the back of the pack. So it's nice when everything kind of lines up and it works out.
Well, what is the why in the road, though? Because is it that there are some people that are sticking the X Games route and some that are headed the Olympics route?
Not so much that. It's more of a mindset. The Olympics has been very good for the sport in that it's gotten a lot more people into the sport. So we have a lot of new people riding that wouldn't have if it wasn't in the Olympics, because they're doing it to be in the Olympics, essentially. So the why in the road is more so you have a whole crew of people that are learning how to do it because they want to be in the Olympics, and then you have a whole crew of people that do it because they love it and it's enjoyable. Now, you still had the guys that did it as a job because they found out they were good at it. They weren't necessarily like in love with it, but they did it because they were good at it, and they were able to make money at it by going to the X Games and do tours and all these other competitions. But so it's always been there, but there's definitely been a shift. And I say why in the road, we're all one big family essentially, but you just have a slightly different mindset towards those competitions. And the way that they're run is more so about consistency than it is about progression. So the older competitions that I used to ride in, you were rewarded if you were trying something new. Even if you crashed, if you got up and did it again and pulled it, you actually got a better score than you would have if you hadn't tried it and crashed. So there's lots of different like types of competitions. And X Games was kind of like, X Games was on the side of consistency back then, but now it's almost like it's shifted because you have the Olympics, which are, I mean, it's like to a T. This trick is worth this amount of points, and if you do this trick this many times, you get that many points, and if you do that, so everyone's like analyzing runs in ways that they've never done before. Because I mean, I'm the kind of guy, I'll show up at a course and I'll just say, oh, I want to jump from there to there, and I want to do this and I want to do that. So I'll just kind of figure out how to make it work. And sometimes I figure it out during my run. I'm not like, I don't plan it out as much as some people do, or I probably should actually. But I kind of fly by the seat of my pants, and I feel like that won't fly in the Olympics. You have to be really on your game, which is again, it's a different mindset. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just a different. It's the progression of the sport. So
right, and it's a little subjective though. It's kind of like how in gymnastics or like ice skating or something, which, side note, I can totally appreciate what we were saying about these people who are like, now it's in the Olympics, now is my Olympic moment. Because let me tell you, as a kid, every time the Winter Olympics were on, and man, I saw some ice skating, I was like, you know what, that's gonna be me. I'm just gonna decide to ice skate. Mind you, I lived in North Carolina, where we didn't even have an ice skating rink for most of the time I grew up, so I wasn't sure how that was gonna work out, but that was what I was gonna do. Did not work out. But it's a little subjective to the judges. Have you ever had a competition where you ride in it and you thought that you were going to get a better score than you did, but the judges like really were awful?
It happens
all the time, right? It must.
It's one of those things that sometimes it's in your favor and sometimes it's not. And it only really stings if the person that beats you is someone that you don't get along with very well. But luckily for me, I get along with almost everybody, and it's really just it's a joy to be a part of those events and to have fun out there. So.
Well, that's the best attitude to have.
Slide off the shoulder pretty easily. I don't get too tied up in I should have won this or that or whatever. And sometimes it's more difficult because everyone and their brother is telling you that to your face right after the contest, and it's like, well, thank you, but we can't do anything about it. So I'm not going to.
Right. Well, that's a positive attitude. We like that. I also love your support for our troops because I feel like you seem to have a soft spot for the troops. You've done charity events. You've actually gone to the Middle East, I think around 15 times perform. Yeah, to perform for the troops. I mean, first of all, I think that is so cool and such a great thing. Why was this important to you to do?
Well, my dad's a Marine, so right there, I grew up, with that influence in the house. But aside from that, honestly, had my career not taken off and the whole graphic design thing not worked out, I probably would have joined the military just because.
Which I think a lot of people probably, that's sort of what I thought about that at one time. I was like, well, if nothing else happens, I'll go into the military. It's a great future to have for sure. Right.
And to be honest, like a lot of the guys that are, that have the mindset to there's of course, not everyone's going to be like this wherever you go, but a lot of people that choose to serve others or the country, that's a different mindset than it's a little bit less on the selfish side. So I definitely respect those people that are willing to do that for everyone else, to actually go and do the jobs that might not be fun, like fueling a jet on a runway that's 130 degrees, and that's all you do every single day for a year or however long you're out there. It's not all like the movies where everyone's
not all Top Gun. Wait a minute.
It's not like that. Like most of our troops that are over there are in the most boring, mundane jobs that literally are just like, oh gosh, and they're uncomfortable because wherever they're at, depending where that, some of the places that I've gone to over there to do shows to entertain, one of the bases, it was 135 heat index during the daytime and about 110 degrees at night, actual temperature at night. And it was the most comfortable place ever. And the country, the way they get rid of trash is by burning it. And they also, so there's burn piles everywhere. And they also burn the dead animals and stuff. So you have the smell of rotting, burning flesh in the air constantly in the humid, sticky, hot air that sticks to your skin, and it's very, very uncomfortable. And then on top of that, imagine doing a job that's so boring that you're just like, so you have all these troops that literally, essentially, they're doing their job, but they're not in a comfortable position, work environment. And if we can go over there and bring them a little piece of home or something they grew up with, because a lot of the troops are our age or a little bit younger, and they grew up watching X Games. A lot of the troops that we go over there to, they know who most of us are because they have, seen the X Games or been involved with BMX in some way, shape, or form. And it literally brings them a little taste of home, even if it's for an hour or two, and they don't feel like they're in, the middle of a scorching oven sandbox doing a job that is super boring. If they can feel like out of that element for a couple hours, then we did our job. And it's honestly, those are the most fun shows, the most rewarding things I've done, more so than winning a gold at the X Games. I just said, people that fluff that off as like not a big deal, they're lying. But doing those types of shows and being with good people like that and helping out in that way is more rewarding, is what I'm trying to say.
Totally. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. And I've always wanted to be able to go. Now, I don't know what I would actually bring. Like I've been known to do a little karaoke. Not that they would necessarily want that from me, our troops overseas, but I would love to go and do something like that, because you're right. These are people, not only are they putting their lives on the line to keep us the freest country in the world and to, oh gosh, all the incredible things that America does around the world for other countries as well. Yeah. But then they're in these, like you're saying, really tough living situations in most cases. And it's a tough job. Look, I have service members in my family, and I know the things that they've gone through, the things they've done, and your description of it is very accurate. But if we could think of a way we could team up, I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe you do some BMX, I do some like semi-decent karaoke. I don't know if they would have us. Hey. I would 100% go overseas for our troops for that.
I mean, you don't have to twist my arm. I'm always down for a good time.
Like, don't torture these people. Why would you do that? It's bad enough.
I've had people ask me to sing Ace of Spades again at a karaoke bar before. So I mean, I'm not too shabby myself.
Well, see, look, we're just getting the ball rolling here. I don't know what could happen, but maybe we've got something. I know the USO does a nice little package for our troops. Maybe we come up with our own thing. But truly, I would love to be able to do something like that, because we really owe everything in America to our servicemen and women who, it's incredible every single day what they do, no matter if it's refueling a jet, like you're saying, on a runway that's 130 degrees, or, whatever their job might be, preparing food, etc. It is such an important role that they play in keeping this country safe and free. And I'm personally so grateful, and I'd love to be able to say thank you in that way.
The clock won't tell the proper time if all the cogs aren't in their proper spaces. So.
Oh, look at you. Wow, we're getting very deep. Well, that brings me
That's actually The Incredibles. Like a clock.
Oh, is that right?
Well, yeah. My son loves that movie.
See, and all I got is from Boss Baby. My kids just say "goo goo gaga," which is a line in the movie, if you can believe that, all day. So, I mean, maybe 6-year-old's better than a 2 and 4, but
give them a few years.
We'll get there. So I have to ask you, what do you think is the best part of America, and what do you think is the greatest threat to the future of our country?
I think the best part of America, the best thing about America is the fact that we do have the freedom to do what we want to do. And we have, like, no other time in history have just the general public been able to have so much freedom as we have. And obviously those freedoms are eroding day by day, but we do still live in the freest country on the planet, and we do still have a say in what we get to do with our lives. That being said, so freedom would be my favorite part about America. I think the most dangerous thing that's threatening America right now is people that feel like they're entitled to things, everything so much. Just the feeling of the people that have this entitlement mentality, because they feel like everything is owed to them, and they inevitably are drawn towards socialism or communism or something of that nature, where everything's just provided, and that doesn't work and has never worked in the history of the planet. So it's been tried lots of times, and it's currently being tried right now, and it's failing miserably everywhere it's tried. And I think that is slowly encroaching into this country. So hopefully we can fend that off from the inside, because we have, I think, more domestic threats than we do foreign threats at the moment.
Yeah, it can be a little frightening at times. I think you're right, though. The entitlement of so many, and unfortunately, it's been bred into people, and it is so unnatural, and it's so antithetical to everything we stand for as Americans. Hard work, you put it in, and you get out what you put into it. And in this country, you can achieve anything you want, but you've got to put that work in, and nobody necessarily owes you anything. But you're right, there's a whole, I don't want to say a generation, but there are a host of people out there who feel like there's a lot owed to them. And I got to tell you, COVID didn't do anybody any favors. It just made people lazier, as far as I'm concerned. They all want to stay home. Everybody just wants to get paid to hang out at their house. But hopefully we're on the other side of that, and hopefully things will change. Yeah, because I agree with you. We cannot continue in this direction. Well, Morgan, we're going to be watching everything you do. We'll let our audience know if and when we get our tour together overseas for the troops. They may turn at least me away. I'm not sure, but we'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. But Morgan Wade, thank you for joining us on The Right View today. We really appreciate hearing from you. Keep up the great work. Stay safe. And whenever I need advice on my kids on a bike, I know where to go. For sure, I'm coming to you. And everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time for more of The Right View.